Life is an unyielding storm, casting us into the depths of challenge, hardship, and suffering. Yet, in the heart of this storm lies the seed of something far greater: strength, fortitude, and wisdom. Adversity, when faced correctly, is the sculptor of our character, shaping us into beings of profound resilience. But this is not a lesson born of contemporary thought. It is an ancient truth, one that the Stoic philosophers understood intimately, and one that we too must embrace if we are to thrive in the darkest of times. Adversity is inevitable. To think otherwise is to delude oneself, for hardship is woven into the very fabric of existence. But it is not the storm itself that defines us, it is how we choose to confront it. In moments of suffering, we are tempted to despair, to give in to the destructive emotions that gnaw at our peace of mind. Fear, anger, grief, they beckon to us, promising release through indulgence. But to yield to them is to become a prisoner of our own minds. The Stoics, men like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, knew this well. They lived not in idyllic peace, but in times of war, exile, and death. Their wisdom was born from the fire of real adversity. From them, we learn that while we cannot control the external world, we possess absolute control over our inner response. It is within us that the battleground lies, and it is there that victory can be found. The nature of control. The Stoic Epictetus once said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." These words, deceptively simple, hold the key to understanding how we can master adversity. What we endure, what we face, these are external events beyond our influence. The world will unfold as it does, without regard for our desires or preferences. What we can govern, however, is our perception, our judgment of these events. Think of the countless misfortunes that befall us: illness, financial ruin, the death of loved ones. These are not within our power to prevent, no matter how much we might wish otherwise. But to deem them as curses or tragedies, this is a decision that lies squarely within our control. Here lies the first lesson of Stoicism: we control our response to every event, and through that response, we can turn adversity into a source of strength. We, as beings of reason, are not slaves to the whims of fate. The Stoic doctrine of the dichotomy of control teaches that while we cannot change the wind, we can adjust our sails. What lies within us, our beliefs, our actions, our emotions, these are the only things we truly own. And when we recognize this, we find that adversity loses its sting. The storm rages, yes, but it cannot destroy the fortress of our minds unless we allow it to. Overcoming destructive emotions. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrestled daily with the challenges of leadership, war, and personal tragedy. Yet, in his meditations, he reminds himself, and us, that it is not the external trials that defeat us, but the turmoil within. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, he wrote, urging us to guard the purity of our minds against the corruption of destructive emotions. Anger, grief, envy, these emotions are natural, but they are also dangerous. They cloud our judgment, pulling us away from rational thought, and driving us to actions that we will later regret. The Stoics taught that while we cannot prevent these emotions from arising, we can control how long they stay. And more importantly, we can decide not to be governed by them. When adversity strikes, our first reaction is often emotional. We feel the rush of anger at an injustice or the pull of sorrow at a loss. But it is in that very moment that we must stop and remind ourselves of the greater truth: these emotions are fleeting, they are not us. We must observe them, acknowledge their presence, but refuse to act on their impulses. Seneca, in his letter to Lucilius, speaks of the importance of mastering anger. He warns us that anger is a form of madness, one that can consume even the wisest among us. No plague has cost the human race more dear, he writes, and it is a plague that we must overcome if we are to thrive in adversity. The key, according to Seneca, is to catch it early, before it takes root in the soul. Once anger is allowed to fester, it can drive us to ruin. But if we meet it with reason, if we ask ourselves whether the object of our anger is truly within our control, we will find that it evaporates like mist. And so it is with all destructive emotions. Fear, grief, jealousy, they are not permanent states, they are fleeting visitors. We must learn to let them pass through us without latching onto them, without allowing them to dictate our actions. This is not to say that we become emotionless. Rather, we become masters of our emotions, recognizing them for what they are, temporary disturbances in the stillness of our inner world. Embracing hardship as a teacher. Adversity, for the Stoics, is not a curse to be avoided but a teacher to be embraced. Every challenge, every setback, is an opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius, in the midst of wars and political upheaval, reminded himself that the obstacle in the path becomes the path. In other words, the very thing that stands in our way can become the means by which we rise higher. We must train ourselves to see hardship not as something to dread, but as something to welcome. For it is in hardship that we are tested, and it is through testing that we grow stronger. The Stoics believed in a concept called amor fati, the love of fate. To love fate is to accept whatever comes our way, good or bad, with the understanding that it is all part of the process of becoming our best selves. This is a radical notion in today's world, where comfort and ease are often seen as the ultimate goals. But the Stoics knew that a life of comfort breeds weakness. It is only through adversity that we can develop true strength. Seneca, who experienced exile and the loss of wealth, wrote that fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men. Just as a blacksmith's fire tempers steel, so too does hardship temper the human soul. When we face difficulties, we must remind ourselves that this is the moment we have been preparing for. Every act of self-control, every moment of fortitude, has been leading us to this point. And now, in the face of adversity, we have the chance to prove to ourselves that we are not defined by the external world, but by our inner strength. The role of virtue in overcoming adversity. At the core of Stoicism is the belief that virtue is the only true good. Wealth, power, health, these are indifferent to the Stoic. They are neither good nor bad, but merely things that we encounter along the way. What matters is how we respond to them, and whether we do so in accordance with virtue. Virtue, for the Stoics, consists of 4 key qualities: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are the pillars that hold us steady in the face of adversity. Wisdom allows us to see things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. Courage gives us the strength to face our fears and act in spite of them. Justice ensures that we treat others fairly, even when we ourselves are suffering. And temperance keeps our desires in check, preventing us from being consumed by excess. When we face hardship, it is these virtues that will carry us through. Wisdom teaches us that adversity is a natural part of life, something that cannot be avoided. Courage gives us the strength to face it head-on, without flinching. Justice reminds us that our suffering does not give us the right to inflict harm on others. And temperance ensures that we do not seek escape in destructive pleasures. To live virtuously is to live in accordance with nature, to align ourselves with the flow of the universe. And when we do so, we find that adversity loses its power over us. The Stoic sage, in the midst of suffering, remains calm and unshaken, for he knows that his true happiness lies not in the external world, but in the cultivation of his inner virtue. The power of reflection. One of the greatest tools the Stoics used to master adversity was the practice of daily reflection. At the end of each day, Marcus Aurelius would ask himself whether he had lived in accordance with his principles, whether he had allowed himself to be swayed by destructive emotions or external events. This practice of self-examination is essential for anyone who seeks to thrive in tough times. We, too, must take the time to reflect on our thoughts, actions, and reactions. It is not enough to merely endure hardship, we must learn from it. What did we do well? Where did we falter? How can we improve next time? By engaging in this process of reflection, we sharpen our ability to face future challenges with greater wisdom and strength. In his letters, Seneca advises us to retire into yourself each day, to examine our souls with the same care that we might examine our finances or our health. This inner work is what allows us to grow, to become stronger with each passing trial. It is not enough to survive adversity, we must emerge from it transformed. Thriving in tough times. To thrive in tough times is not to avoid suffering, nor is it to escape hardship. It is to face these things with courage, wisdom, and equanimity. The Stoics did not promise an easy life, nor did they seek one. What they sought was mastery, not of the external world, but of themselves. We, too, can achieve this mastery if we are willing to do the inner work. We must learn to control our perceptions, to overcome destructive emotions, and to embrace hardship as a teacher. We must cultivate virtue in all that we do, and we must engage in the daily practice of self-reflection. In the end, adversity is not something to be feared. It is the forge in which our character is shaped, the crucible in which our true strength is revealed. And when we learn to master it, we discover that there is no challenge too great, no trial too difficult, no suffering too unbearable. For we, like the Stoics before us, know that our happiness, our peace of mind, and our strength do not lie in the hands of fate. They lie within us, and they are ours to command. Conclusion: the Stoic path to inner triumph. Adversity is not an enemy to be defeated, but a companion on the path to wisdom. The Stoics, through their lived experiences and profound teachings, have shown us that it is in the face of hardship that we are given the chance to cultivate our true strength. We are reminded that the trials we endure are not punishments, but opportunities to grow, to refine our character, and to align ourselves with the deeper virtues of life. In mastering adversity, we find that we are not mere victims of circumstance, but masters of our inner world. By controlling our perceptions, overcoming destructive emotions, and embracing hardship as a teacher, we learn to navigate life's storms with resilience and grace. The external world may remain chaotic, filled with challenges we cannot control, but within us lies a sanctuary of strength, fortified by the practice of virtue and the discipline of reason. In following the Stoic path, we not only survive tough times, we thrive in them. And as we emerge from the crucible of suffering, we are transformed into beings of unshakable fortitude, capable of facing any challenge with a calm and steady mind. The journey is not easy, but it is one that promises a reward far greater than comfort, the triumph of the self over adversity. For in the end, the storms of life may rage, but we, rooted in Stoic wisdom, remain unmoved. This is the essence of Stoicism, the ability to endure, to grow, and to emerge victorious, not over the world, but over ourselves. The choice to walk this path lies within each of us. And when we do, we find that true peace, true strength, and true happiness are already within our grasp.